Oi, you. It's time for another episode of Dorothy and the Dealer. Let's tune into the conversation.
Let's go in there and have a look. And I thought,
when you had a time limit that you're now half.
listen,
an hour past.
I fucking left at 22 and I'm back at
15
half
minutes.
past.
No, we're supposed to be back here at 15:15, and that's okay.
Oh.
Mr.
Talk
I'm
about
al-
ruining the atmosphere.
Mr. I'm always
Talk about-
on time.
talk
You
about
have to
dampening the-
respect time.
talk about
He
dampening the
doesn't
energy.
do
We
that
went for a
himself.
walk around the park as well.
Yeah.
Well,
He was actually like, fuck.
Well, I was feeding the ducks and he was like, come on into this bathroom, Mitch. And I'm like, no, it's not one of those days, Matt. Oh, but I've got a hole saw. It doesn't matter, Matt. I'm not going into the
don't-
bathroom
Do
with
you guys? Hello.
Okay, yeah. So give us what's your go-to song, Matt? I know you really like Simply the Best, better than all the rest. You like that one,
What
don't
is
you?
my I don't know. I think I'm most known for
Oh, I know.
Elton John.
Don't let the sun go down on me. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Elton John.
Yeah, and then we go hard.
I can't hide love. What? Come on,
How many times have we sung that song?
drunk
so many
as
times.
fuck.
So many times. I was trying to think of the other one that we used to do where we used to bang.
Oh,
the,
yeah. I know what it
armrests
is.
at your house.
Yeah, I know what
What
it is.
was
It's
that? Is it-
Toto.
Africa.
Toto Africa.
Yeah.
Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You
I,
just like-
we share a couple of songs that I know that you like. That I'm like, these are ballads.
tell us.
Yeah.
I love a good
What
ballad
ones?
as well.
Tell us.
I don't
there's a
know.
few.
There's a few, yeah.
Because I'm the person that needs to be on the music when we're doing these
Yeah.
things half the time. Because
Yeah.
otherwise he's too.
It's
Gonna take a lot to take me away from you. Come on,
Mate,
man.
people
There's
listen
nothing
to
that
this.
100
Mitch,
men
Mitch,
are
we're
more
going to
able
listen to
to.
this. And I'll be like, oh my God, I can't listen to this podcast.
I bless the
Because this man is
day,
screaming in my ears.
Yeah. But it's always, it's normally happy house techno at your,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Well, wasn't I playing some good
Love
music on
House
Saturday?
techno,
You were
all
like,
that.
fucking hell,
It
man.
was
what
good.
What is this
It took me
music?
straight back to Bali, actually.
Did it?
Yeah.
To
Filthy.
Yeah.
Finn's nightclub.
back
That was a good trip.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was such a good trip.
okay, yeah.
Which one?
Right,
To
yeah.
Bali, I'm talking about.
Which one?
The-
Saturday night?
Saturday night, that's what we thought you were talking about. Yeah.
Anyway.
So, Matt, welcome to Dorothy and the Dealer.
Well,
Is
thank
this
you
the
for
very
having me.
first
No,
time?
he's been on.
that
It's no, I haven't been
I don't
on.
Have
think
you?
he has.
We're very selective about who we let on, you
Well,
know.
when you reached out, I actually thought to myself, "Fuck, they've run out of people." So
Well, it's probably true.
yeah, is this the
Well,
last-
it was
this
either
is
you
the
or
last
Jimmy
episode.
Savile, and then we worked out Jimmy Savile instead.
Oh
This
my
is the
God.
last episode we're done after this. There was no one else to talk to.
Yeah. I stood over Jimmy Savile's grave for ages with a mic. Couldn't get a fucking word out of him. Anyway.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
I'm
forward to
dealing
this.
with two 12-year-old boys. That's how this podcast is going to run, I feel. Anyway.
That's kind of the.
I kind of
that's where
like
we
that,
met.
though. I kind of like that you guys have that relationship where you're just like your kids. And but you have that relationship. This is for me importance in relationships, that you can just be crazy silly and then you can just go deep if you need to.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean.
But we
you
were
can
actually
just
talking
chat
about that,
and
weren't
go
we?
into-
One of the things you said on Saturday night was, let's everybody say something really lovely that we like about each other.
No, that was mine.
Was
But
it? Did he start it?
He started.
He
that,
did
yeah.
not.
He started that.
Did he?
Which I thought was hilarious because he was the one person that couldn't handle couldn't
handle the
the love that was shown to him. But yeah,
funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's almost like he's wanting to, I don't know, permission for it or whatever. But
Well, do you want to just start by just sharing how you guys met and who Matt is and all that sort of stuff, just to get going?
Well, we met kind of on the parent circuit, wasn't it? We were down, there's a local park in Darlington, and every Friday night all the parents would go down after school pickup and sit around and have cheese and crackers, and then, of course, somebody would pull out a bottle of champagne, and then it'd be another bottle of champagne, then it'd be wine, and then it would be lots and lots of drinks at the park, and then everybody would pile back to someone's house. So I met Matt at the park one evening. He'd just finished work. I think you were working for Summit at the time, weren't you?
Yeah.
And came over and we started chatting, and I asked Matt what he did, and he said, I work for Summit selling new house and land packages, but I also do a lot of developing on the side for my clients. And my ears pricked up and I was like, really? Because I'm a developer. I haven't been able to develop because I've just been too busy. And then we got talking about perhaps him doing a project with me. And on Monday morning, I fucking put an offer in on a property with Matt, and then it's been
I don't think it was that quick, but it was
horrendous sailing
reason.
since then.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story,
that's
Matt.
right. Yeah,
I'm pretty
I won't
sure it
interrupt
was,
you
dude.
too much,
I'm
but
pretty-
it wasn't. It was quite quick, but I think
Yeah.
it wasn't that quick. Maybe a week or something, but
Yeah.
it was pretty quick
Yeah.
in terms of how quickly that turned around.
So,
But our kids both went to, at that time they were going to Darlington Primary, and we had a mutual friend, Belinda and Alan.
Yeah. Alan. That was the first fucking word my son ever said.
Yeah.
Alan.
Alan.
I've got videos because
Alan.
all he heard was Belinda going, Alan.
Alan.
So
Yeah.
that's what Oliver used to say.
Steve.
Yeah, lovely people, no longer together. But anyway, they were the kind of conduit that brought us together. We knew Belinda, I don't know how first, but then, started hanging out with you. And I remember that time, and I bring Belinda in it because that was the first night that we went back to Belinda and Alan's house and we had that conversation in the kitchen. Can you remember that?
I do. And I said something and your ears pricked up and you were like, what did you just say? And I was talking about something to do with consciousness or life or something like that.
Yeah.
And and it's not very often someone will go, that's not true. And I went, no, it is true. And you were like, is it? And then I started talking to you about it and you were like, wow, okay, that's pretty intriguing. And then that was really where we kicked off. But that was really, we had but you have a couple of points where you meet people along the way. You know, one of them was definitely property and investing. We had a keen interest in that.
Yeah.
But the other one was understanding life beyond what we'd been told and taught. And
yeah,
But that's what I love, and that's what even watching you guys together. I love that you can do the business side. You put your business hat on. You do your business side. Then you talk consciousness and proper in-depth information and connection, and then you literally sometimes act like 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
I think it was that sense of humor, because when you find someone that you just gel with, you instantly you can laugh about fart jokes. You can just do, I don't know, you're just laughing.
But you can also be
So fun.
extremely inappropriate.
Yeah.
And if anybody else heard you saying what you're saying, but between the two of you, you can just fucking laugh it off because it's just hilarious.
And that's where the bromance began.
I think 100%. I think that's where, because you hang with people that are easy to get on, that that have a similar humor to you.
Yeah, and we have fucking laughed, dude. I mean,
fuck me.
we have been fucking in points where I wake up in the morning and my ribs are sore and I cannot remember a thing that we were laughing about, but fuck, we laughed.
I can remember once. This is like jumping. This is really fast forwards, but I'm coming into an STP or something like that, or it was an LRG. It's when I was a student. And we'd watched that video of, and I won't tell the start of it, but it's the goat up against the gate at the end going, ah! And we'd literally driven from Darlington to Balcatta, which is a good 45-minute drive. And we were just
crying,
could not stop crying. We get here, and you're in the room, and we're still in hysterics. The seminar started. We're just absolutely melted on this joke.
That's so
and it
funny.
was just such a childish joke, childish joke, but it's so funny.
If you can't do that, there's a problem, isn't there?
Yeah.
So I think that was really where our friendship kicked off, and I mean. We're just working on projects at the moment. We were calculating it the other day. I think it was about 26 million Australian dollars worth of projects we're working on right now, and it started off with that first $700,000 project, and away we went.
Yeah,
in Bayswater. But there's a lot has happened in between. It's a funny thing with friendships, relationships, how they come and go, and how everybody has their trials and tribulations, and we're all just trying to navigate rough seas a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean? But you've had some. I mean, we were talking about it earlier in the car. You've had to make some big decisions. One of them was you felt you needed to separate and leave, and I remember having conversations with you saying, no matter what, you got to work through it, and you can work through it, and da 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 da. And then I remember you coming to me one day and saying to me, okay, I can't. I know I've got to, and I knew in that moment, like, holy fuck, okay, this is about to happen. This is about to happen with friends of ours that are very, very close. And do you remember what took you, like, to go from I'm gonna to no, I actually have to do this? Do you remember what that moment was? What was it?
Yeah, well, I remember having those conversations with you, and to be fair, they weren't over a short period of time. Like I'd had that conversation with you on and off for a long time. And when I say a long time, I think maybe 3 years. Like it would rear its head every 6 months. I'd be really unhappy and maybe have the courage to have the conversation with someone. And then, and then you don't listen to your heart and your head comes in and you're like, no, everything will be all right, and then it goes away again. The truth be told, I knew when, before I even married Connie, that I wasn't in love with her and I didn't want to marry her, but there was just something that just held me in that, and I often, I reflect about what maybe that was. And
what do you think that was?
Well, I think,
because I mean, when you think about it, it's a fucking, so many people are in that situation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, well, firstly, I think it's a lot easier to stay than leave, but for me, I've got an older brother, I've got a younger sister. My brother's a couple of years older than me. And my older brother, you do idolize them. He was always, he was doing everything first. Like, he'd have a nice car first. He got the, long-term girlfriend first. He got the house first. And then he was having kids. And at that point in time, I'm kind of, and he's also had kind of like a solid career, went to school, left school early, become an apprentice plumber, was working like full-time, making good money, started his own company. And so for me, I was kind of like still finding my way, like partying, didn't really know what I was doing. I was, I've got such a broad background, but I was doing broadcasting at the time and I was doing road shows and everything else. And then
and you're a figure skater for a while.
I was, I was a professional figure skater, not really, hockey player, but
figure skater.
Yeah. I just think that, I looked at him and he was creating a family and getting married and all these things, and I just thought, fuck, this is what I should be doing. This is what I should do, possibly. And I think at that time, I'd met, I was traveling around Australia. I'd met Connie in Byron Bay, and it was just, for me, I was only in Australia for maybe like another 6 months. For me, I was just like, no disrespect to women or anything like that, but I was just looking for having a good time, basically. I was a backpacker. I was 22. I was in Australia, in Byron Bay, Surfers Paradise, all that type of stuff, and I was just here to have fun,
Yeah.
And then I met Connie, and it's almost like along that path, I never expected it to continue, and it just kept going.
Right.
To the point where, my visa ran out. I went back to the UK, and I just thought to myself, she's not coming to come over, And then next minute, I get this message, I'm coming over. And so I felt like the relationship just kept like stumbling along.
Right.
And it wasn't bad at all. Like, it wasn't a toxic relationship. You know, she wasn't mean to me or anything, any of that stuff. And so I just think
there were definitely elements that you guys had in common as well, especially at the start, right?
Yeah, 100%. The travel, the adventure. She was quite a free spirit. I was obviously fairly free, like traveling Australia. And so there definitely things that aligned. And also it was 22. She was a cool chick. She was just doing her thing. And and so we went back to the UK, and it was in the UK that that's kind of like when I said I knew that I wasn't in love with her. That's when I really realised that. And we actually lived at my parents' house. Was pretty much there for pretty much close to 2 years. And during that, there were times that I did want to break up with her, and I never did. And I remember the last day when our visa ran up and we had to travel back to Australia. And at that point, my younger sister, who is, if you know me, you know that family is a really big thing, and I love all of my family, my brother and my sister. And I specifically remember that my sister, like, she just meant the world to me at that time, that age. And I just remember feeling like I was really letting her down leaving. I just didn't want to leave. And I remember getting in the car and having to drive to Heathrow Airport and I was saying goodbye to my family, not knowing when I was coming back.
Right. And
I just remember on the way, I was just on the way to the airport, I was just like, just get out of the car, just get out of the car. Just
really?
Just get out of the car, yeah. And I just didn't. And it took me, I can't remember when it was, 2003, so how old am I now? It took me till like 43 years, I think, till I was 43 to actually pluck up the courage to leave. But there was a lot of personal development that led up to that point. Understanding, understanding yourself.
And that's really about understanding yourself, right? It's got nothing, it does have to do with the other person, but a lot of that has to do with you, who you are, what you want, what your values are, what's important to you, you know?
Yeah.
And why I think why you stayed in the first place.
Yeah, I think there's also little comments that you get dropped by your parents at the start. And I always remember my dad saying something, and it just always stuck with me. And it still sticks with me today. And I've definitely done work on this. But, you know, we were in front of the TV watching like Top of the Pops or something, and Celine Dion come on. And I remember him saying to me, he goes, "Oh, I really love your mum, but if I was going to leave her for one woman, it would be Celine Dion," right? Which is such a random comment. But I think in that moment, I created some sort of belief or story that was like, you can stay in a relationship if you're unhappy and leave when you find something good. I don't know, but there was something there that pulls me back to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was just such a, yeah, I don't know.
Could you see your dad like on Titanic, the movie, right?
Well, she
at the front of the ship,
she wasn't
and
on
your
Titanic,
dad is up.
but I think in you're
She
thinking
wasn't in the movie,
she
mate.
wasn't on the
She
movie,
just
yeah.
sung.
In my mind, she was in the fucking movie.
Okay, she
I mean, I'm just
definitely
trying to
wasn't.
create a
Kate
picture.
Winslet. No, yeah,
It was
yeah.
Kate
Yeah,
Winslet and Leo,
yeah.
but okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. I was actually thinking of
Seniors
Cher.
moment.
Did you say Cher? Oh, you said no. You said Celine Dion. Yeah. God, terrible. Eh? I mean, who bought that record?
Anyway, so
Sorry, go on, Miss.
well, I just want to know. I guess since we're talking about this before we go on to other topics, what do you think was the catalyst? Like, what was the thing that shifted?
Yeah, I think that, well, first of all, I started my personal development journey, and I started that with you guys after having the conversations. And I can't remember, I know exactly what happened now, why we started it. So there was, I had a one-night stand. I was blowing myself up. So there were signs along the way that
Really small signs.
yeah, that I wanted out of this relationship. Obviously, I didn't have the courage to do it. So subconsciously, I was trying to wreck the marriage.
Yeah, so make it happen so that you didn't have to do it.
Yeah, and so there was this incident. We was at a friend's wedding in Scarborough, and it was the night of that. Really drunk. Anyway, ended up back with another lady. So after that, me saying to myself, "Fuck, you need to fucking work this shit out because you need to do something." So that's when I signed up for Relationships and You, and that started the process. And I'd done all of your courses, and then going on from there and doing some work with Cohen Ray as well. I joined K2 Elite, and just really understanding how the mind, your subconscious, everything else, and getting to the point. I got to the point, even though I had really close friends around me. Sometimes you can't. I don't know, sometimes maybe you can't tell your friends certain things. And in K2, I kind of had this group of this table where it's called the mastermind table, and you bring up things that are holding you back. And for 2 years, I was in that for 2 years. And they tell us, what's your biggest problem going on now? It can be impersonal, it can be a business, it can be whatever you're facing. For 2 years, I was pushing that motherfucker down.
Yeah.
I was like, I just hope that they don't see this or ask. And every time I would go, I would run through the same scenario. Like, I just hope they don't ask me about my relationship and if I'm happy, Right. And so I pushed that down for 2 years. And then I think, along with conversations with yourself, and also, speaking those words that I was actually really unhappy and feeling that support, I remember saying to myself going into the last one, fuck man, you're 44. Like how long are you gonna just be unhappy for? When are you actually gonna draw a line? When are you gonna do something for you? Because it was always, it's really all about, for me, it's about self-worth and self-love and loving yourself. And it was just, I just had to do it.
I mean, the funny thing is most people would hear that and think, fucking self-love, loving yourself, what are you talking about? But that is literally what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like it takes so much balls to leave. Like it takes so much courage to leave. I had a conversation with another mate of mine not so long ago, and he'd had a series of fucking things that had happened, like that were really, really full on, like fucking full on. And he looked at me and he said to me, out of everything that happened, the fucking most difficult thing that happened was leaving my marriage. And the other stuff that you would, like, if I told you what it was, you'd be like, oh my God. But he said, I'm telling you, hands down, it took it was the most harrowing, toughest, and now I'm like, okay, so would you go back there? And like, absolutely not. Would you go back to that situation? Absolutely not.
So when he's saying he won't go back, he wouldn't go back to being
to how it was, yeah.
To how it was, yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't go back to how it was, as much as it was traumatizing for both of them.
Yeah.
And I think a good barometer for that, sometimes we don't see for ourselves that we're creating a life that we're not happy in. But if we were to ask ourselves, would I want this for my child? Would I want this for my, for my daughter or for my son? And if you can answer that and go, oh, actually, I probably wouldn't, then why are we sticking through that?
And that's such a great question, because that is one of the questions I was asking myself. I was like, would I want Indy or Ollie to be feeling this way and stay in it? And going back to what you said, is it one of the hardest things I've done? Without doubt, it is the hardest thing I've done. Having the conversation with Connie was really hard. But I can tell you now what the hardest thing was. And that's when you sit your family down at the dining room table and you tell them that you're leaving. You sit your 2 children down and you tell them that your dad, dad doesn't love you, mum anymore, and I'm going to be leaving. That will always stick with me because it was just so fucking hard, because and that took a lot of work to feel. I remember I've had so many conversations with you guys about the guilt that I felt around that. It's taken so long to work through that guilt, but without doubt, in the whole of my life, in any experience I've gone through, having that conversation and sitting your kids down at the table to have that is by far the hardest.
Yeah, I remember that time. I remember how I knew that was just going to be the toughest thing for you to do. It was full on.
But I think the reason it's tough is because you care. If you didn't give a fuck, you you wouldn't probably even have the conversation. Yeah. You'd be like, well, but the fact that you didn't want to hurt the kids or harm the kids, but you realized staying was harming them.
Yeah. I mean, I was, as we said before, I was like, I had destructive behaviors, like often roared in the subconscious. Consciously I knew I didn't want to be in there, but I wasn't. I wouldn't say like I was courageous enough to leave. So my subconscious was rolling the show, and it was whenever there was alcohol involved or drugs or whatever, and not that is something that is regular for me, but it would come out. Like it would come out, and it would just fucking. Take over.
It was destructive,
and it was just there it's there basically going, you want to leave, you're not courageous enough to do it, so I'm going to do it for you, and I'm going to do it in a destructive way. And it was just acknowledging.
So it's kind of like a primitive, destructive. Yeah, I remember the two of us talking about that. Like you're harming you. And the thing you're trying to avoid, which is harming the kids, is that sort of destructive behavior is going to harm them way more than anything else. Yeah. You're better off just having the conversation. Yeah. Which is I totally understand. It's what you did. It's what. Yeah. It was I mean, I remember how like devastated you were, the fact that you had to have that conversation with them. Yeah. But I also think that as a dad now, like. You are an exceptional father. Like you're exceptionally good with the kids, and how you handle situations in terms of the relationship now is with calm, nobility, the ability to really stop and self-diagnose. So all the work that you've done has really shown through in your behavior as a father now, and making sure that those kids know that they're fucking okay, and you are there, and you have not left them, and you're really there for them. Like you really, really have, and you have a great relationship with the both of them, like it's.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely do. I think, they're like my world. They're my everything. When you have a child, things change for you. If things changes for you, and So, I mean, I tell them I love them. Like I tell them I love them every day. I would say every day. Some days it's like 10 times. Some days it might not be 0. But it's like it's all the time. And I just tell them, and I hold them, I cuddle them, I kiss them. Yeah, they're getting a bit older now, so sometimes they don't want that. But they know that they're loved. They know that I've got their back. They know that, the one thing when, when I left, I moved into a rental for 6 months. And I knew that I wanted to create a family home for them because I felt I'd destroyed that. And so I was so driven to get back into my own house again. I mean, even though we had a rental, it was like small things like, putting posters on the walls or doing whatever, the kids that want to do, or, you can't fully relax in a rental. And so I was just super driven to be able to get them back into a family home. And I did that within 6 months. And they're everything to me. Am I the best dad? Like, I'm always learning. Like, I've definitely got a soft spot for India. I think every dad has a soft spot for their daughter, and she definitely exploits that soft spot. She's a bit of an entrepreneur when it comes to exploiting dad. But I love her so much, and I love Ollie so much. Ollie's such a dear. He's such a dear lad. He's really, he's starting to change, right? He's starting to turn into a young boy.
Yeah, he's gone from hello everybody to
hello everybody.
And I came up the other day and he's like, "Hey Mitch, how you going?" Like, rather than "Hey Ollie," and he goes, "Hi," he was like, "Hey Mitch, how you going? What's happening?" And he's actually quite a little fucking dude.
Yeah, and he's funny. He's starting to get funny. Indy's always been hilarious. She's always been funny, but he's starting to get a real kind of, I don't know, personality to him.
That's great.
So it's, right now with them, I'm super happy. Indy lives with me pretty much full time. Ollie comes every other week. But I'm, things are great.
So what would you, looking back on that now, how would you advise yourself if you were, looking back on that scenario or the delay maybe in making that call? How would you advise yourself now? What would you say to yourself?
Yeah. Firstly, I'd say, it will happen when you're ready. It's the first thing I'd say. It'll happen when you're ready. And I wouldn't change it. Like, I've got nothing against Connie at all, I wish her all the best. I hope she finds love, I want the best for her, and some people find that, maybe hard to believe, but I actually do.
Okay, so can I say something there? I think when we say you are, right, we are everything. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And I think that when I look back at everything that has happened, it just validates the fact that there's always a divine timing for things.
Yeah.
If it had have happened any earlier, you would not have met the person that you've met.
Yeah.
You would not be the man that you are.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the security that you have for the kids.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be the father that you are.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have learned the lesson.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't have gone through what you've gone through. You wouldn't have had the reward of because you gave up a type of love for the type of love that you wanted, which is the biggest risk that we fucking take.
Yeah.
But it was, when you look, you think, fuck, it was absolutely perfect, like it really was.
Yeah.
And how it has rolled out in its perfection is imperfection. It's beautiful how it's rolled out,
Yeah. I think going back to what you said, could I have done it
Just how would you advise yourself?
Yeah. I feel like I kind of have to agree with what Mitch is saying. Like, the timing was right. Like, if it didn't go as long as it went, maybe I didn't have my kids. Like, there's so many things that wouldn't have happened to where I am now. I think, trusting your intuition, listening to your gut. I knew. I know. I would love to take back the pain that I caused Connie. During that relationship, the things that I did. I'd love to take that back. That's probably my one thing that if I could take that back, I would. But in terms of timing, it's just, like Mitch said, I wouldn't have ended up where I am now. I wouldn't be who I am, and I wouldn't have the partner that I've got now. And so, and I also, going back to when I was saying, was I courageous enough? I also feel like, in a way, I wanted to make sure that she was set up. And we wasn't there, in the early years, we weren't there financially. And also, maybe me wanting to wait to India and Ollie were a bit older so they could understand more, I think
so. Even that. So the advice sounds like everything happens in its perfect time and its perfect order. And you said about not having the level of love in your life that you do now. Yeah. How I see that is a certain level of love that you have for yourself. And when you have a level of love for yourself, that gets reflected in the people around you and the environment and who you draw into your life. Do you know what I mean? And I think that you probably also weren't ready to step into that at some level because a part of you wanted it but didn't know how to allow it or receive it. And I felt that from you for a little bit of time, you know. And I think that's part of why some of the self-destructive behaviours came in, because as much as you wanted to feel that, you didn't know, you didn't have that experience. And then I think it kind of came to the point where it was, I do love myself enough to go, right, is this the best thing for me? Do you know what I mean?
Maybe that's just it saying to yourself, like, how much, this is like a test, how much do you love yourself? Do you love yourself enough to actually call quits now and like make a change? It's a hard one, because I feel like as well, until you do some level of personal development, you're probably never going to really understand why you're doing that shit. Do you know what I mean? So,
and what you said earlier is so true, and I think people don't realise how true it is that your conscious mind is just acting things out, but the subconscious is the one that's just running the show. Now, our clients will understand that. We've been speaking about it for years. But sometimes you find yourself doing something and think, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I here? What have I done this? And it's like, just because consciously I wouldn't have chosen this, it's like something is happening at this deep subconscious level that's driving this behavior, this pattern. And you have to be wise enough to understand or to know that that's even happening, so that you can start to look at it and start to do something about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I even think leading into that, some of the other dialect that was going, is you're not good enough, you're ugly, you're a bit chubby, for the men out there, you've got a small dick, you tell whether you've got a big dick or small dick, it's irrelevant. You're just always
critical of yourself.
You're self-critical. Well, I'm looking at you when I'm talking about it. But what I'm trying to say is that, you're always putting yourself down. You're like, no one's going to love me. I remember actually having...
So are you talking about the fear of getting back in the marketplace, putting yourself out there? Because the fucking world has changed, right?
The world has changed. Like, dating had changed. Like, I was 44. Things weren't, what they were when I was, when I met Connie at 22. And so you kind of like, you worry, and you just start talking shit into your head that's just not true about who you are, and maybe physically or or financially or whatever it is. You make all this stuff up. And I in a way I feel like that's just you doing that to keep yourself where you are, because you know where you are. It's where you are, even if you aren't happy.
That's your scapegoat, really. It's your reason to go. As much as part of you may have thought that it was true, it's also a scapegoat so that you don't have to do the thing that's difficult for you, which is, like in your own words, sit down with your family and have that conversation. It's easier in a sense to go, oh, maybe I'll just go back to what I know, what I'm comfortable with, what I'm used to, because that way I don't have to break up the family. I don't have to do X, Y, Z. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like the scapegoat in your mind.
But the other thing is that they knew, right?
They did knew, 100%. Yeah, I truly believe that as well.
Yeah.
I think everyone, I don't think Connie will admit it, but I think she knew. She knew. Kids knew.
Yeah.
On some level,
on
everybody
some
does,
level. Not maybe, but
they may not have consciously said something, but they
Yeah.
would have felt it at some level. Yeah.
I mean, after, I remember after, we split up, and I remember even you had told your kids, and their kids go, oh, yeah, well, yeah, we never actually saw any affection there. We never saw, them cuddling or whatever, it might be.
Yeah.
But I think any time, like, you go what I can tell you, for like, if anyone's listening and going, fuck, I'm in the same plot, it's such a hard thing to go through. But on the end of anything really hard is something amazing. So if you can go through the hardness of it, whatever that is in your life, eventually you're going to go through, you're going to end up in this beautiful place. And that's kind of where I am at now, super in love. But I had to go through all that to get to this point.
Tell me about, because we've talked a lot about relationship stuff, which is obviously what's top of mind at the moment. But what about all the other stuff, Matt? You've had a few adversities in your life in terms of, business and other stuff. What do you think was happening there? Do you think it's Do you think it's along the same vein in terms of the mindset of maybe not feeling good enough that some of the stuff happened? Or what do you think? How do you feel like some of those things occurred?
Yeah, well, another really big thing in my life is that I had a construction company that went into liquidation, and then I went bankrupt and kind of lost everything and had to start again. And I think that, yes, I think there was a level of naivety there at the start when we started the company. We didn't really know what we were doing, but I think the conversation of maybe self-love, self-worth comes into it would be the fact, well, if you did love yourself and you cared about yourself, you would have learned the tools, do you know what I mean, to know what you were doing. But we kind of just, and I've had this conversation with Mitch, all of that stuff I was doing back then, I 100% agree. I think it is like being naive and self-love and self-worth. But it was also, I was looking for external validation from people.
Yeah.
We started a company 5 years, we went from 2 people under like a sole trader ABN, and we took that to 85 people, and we'd basically completed every large construction job at the airport. And all that was, I just wanted people to look at me and go, fuck, Matt is amazing, I hated that. I remember the day that I went bankrupt, or I put it into liquidation. There was a lot of emotion, but it was just a massive amount of relief. Like that, do you know what I mean? I didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy it all, and I was just doing it based on the fact that I wanted people to go, fuck, Matt's doing well, Matt's got a big company, Matt's got the BMW, Matt's got the nice house,
So it was just another expression of that subconscious running the show.
Yeah.
The outside world is just trying to do this for the validation and for the support and stuff, instead of understanding that came from within.
Yeah. Like if
but we were talking about that as we were heading out for lunch earlier, and we were talking about the fact that, like when you have that energy, you attract a lot of deals. I have people come to me all the time with business deals. You have people come to you all the time with business opportunities. But I'd see now that your answer to that every time now is it property? If it's not, I'm not fucking interested. Yeah. Is it property? So what are we doing? Property. What are we doing? Property. We're just doing property. What are we doing? Property. And so because that self-validation thing we all go through it, right? I mean, I just went through it. You taught me a lot about this as well over the past 24 months. I went through it with venturing into a business thing because my kids were interested in it, and I thought, oh, you know what, I can help this guy out and we can do something cool and da-da-da-da-da. And we all go through that, right? But now it seems that you're really, this is the target, this is what I'm doing, I'm not doing anything else, I'm doing this, I'll diversify within this target, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So you're kind of saying that you got into something and, well, quitting sometimes is underrated, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that you were like, oh, when you figured it out, you were like, oh, this is actually not for me. I might as well cut my losses here. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It was one of the things we were talking about.
You're clear about this is my pathway. This is what I want. And over time, you're like clearer and clearer on that.
Yeah. When we were talking about the construction company, that I realised, I'm doing this based on what I want other people to think of me. That's something that I've only really just realised maybe after I turned 40, and I really kind of was like, because I think once you turn 40, you realise, okay, well, I've worked for maybe 20 years. I've really probably got another 20 years in me, and so it's time to fucking figure out who Matt is and the whys and everything else. And so, until recently, and I've still got a company now that I'm trying to sell that I started for Ollie, but again, that was self-validation. It was external validation I was seeking. If I start this company, all these people are going to think, fuck, look at Matt. He's such, the entrepreneur, blah, 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 running all these companies. But, once you get past the excitement of starting a company, you realize, hold on, this is fucking 100% not what I want to be doing. And I only did this because I wanted people to think a certain way about me. And I remember having that conversation with you about the company that you started. And, it was just, I think at that point it was the realization for you, we've had lots of conversations, and we had one literally last week about, you're saying that you want everyone to like you know what I mean? Like you want everyone
it's
to
one
like
been one of my biggest things. Acknowledgement has been one of my biggest things.
Yeah. And so when we live in that space of worrying or wanting other people to feel a certain way, then we're going to just do shit that doesn't align to us.
Yeah.
And so for me, the last couple of years is really about, okay, well, what the fuck do I want? I want freedom. I want choice. I want to do as little as fucking possible.
Yeah.
And I actually do. Like I want to do as livable as possible, but I still want the beach house. I want the nice hills house. I want the nice car. I want the boat.
Yeah.
And so the question became not the question became, okay, well, now I know my values and what's important to me and how I want to live my life, and I know what I want. I just reversed engineered that. How do I get that? And I was already doing property. But it was really quite clear that property was going to get me there.
Yeah.
You know, like if I just now don't give a fuck, you know, I'm the same as you. I want people to like me. I want people to, you know, everything else. But if I don't give a fuck about like what anyone thinks about me, and if I don't go into things, if I think a lot more before I go into things, why am I doing this? What is this? What am I seeking from this? What is this going to give me?
Yeah.
Like answer that question. But yeah, just like sticking with property. Property's going to get me there. I want to work.
But also you fucking love it.
I do love it. I love it. You know, I love it. But I think I love it. Well, I love it because the creation side. I love being creative is a top value of mine. So I love the creation side because I feel like you're taking something that is effectively nothing and turning it into something. You're creating a home. I love building, which is the other creation side. And the good thing about property is that you're constantly moving. You're moving on from project to project. Nothing you're dealing with, even though the foundations are probably the same, you're constantly moving on to a new project.
Yeah.
So there's always something different to deal with. You're always going through a new experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was quite clear for me that property was going to give me the life that I wanted on my terms.
Yeah.
It was really about how do I get it on my terms.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about now. Let's talk a little bit about your partner. Tell me about your partner, this girl that you met.
Yeah, sorry, before we jump on her, beautiful woman, but I just wanted to touch on what Millie said about quitting is underrated.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just want to say that, you know, we feel like when we quit, we're failing, right? So people don't quit often enough.
Yeah.
Because they're like, but what they fail to realize is that it's just a lesson. There's a lesson and it's a lesson for you. And so, like, we should quit a lot quicker because it just costs us money if we don't.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
money, energy, time.
Everything, yeah.
And it's now, ego. You're staying in there for ego.
Sometimes,
ego, yeah. I mean, why did you stay in your one for so long, you know?
I think I stay. I mean, I don't think I actually stayed in that.
Well, you did.
I got the fuck out as soon as I saw. Oh, right, this is good.
Yeah, but you stayed
it was
in there
long
too
enough.
long.
Yeah,
it was long
yeah. But I think it was because I wanted to believe in the idea. You know, I wanted to bring something to the suburb. I wanted to bring something to my family, to the kids. I wanted it to be cool for the kids to say, hey, my dad does this and my dad owns that and da-da-da.
So that's not really bringing something. That's you wanting someone to feel about.
But I also saw what it did for the community, like you did as well. It was great for the community, you know. Yeah. And I was involved in that way in the community. And I think, but it's, you know, I was the problem. Because I couldn't give it the time it needed. I couldn't give it the effort that it needed. I couldn't give it the focus that I think they thought they were going to get. You know, I thought I think they kind of thought they were getting a lifeline, and you buy. I think I bought in I actually paid nothing for it. It didn't cost me anything, except once I'd bought it, then I had to move it and put the time and energy into the construction of it. Yeah. But I did it. I did it for kudos. I mean, that's when you're doing it for that reason, you're gonna get fucking bored because you're not thinking. Do you know what I mean? You as I brought in my accountants, but it all looked sweet. It all looked good. Yeah. But that wasn't what it needed. What it needed was someone on both people that were teachable and open to growing and learning. And if you don't have that, you're fucked. Yeah,
I think for me, like I've definitely got two examples where I should have quit it a lot earlier, and that's Base Camp, like the camping store that we started in COVID, and then King Sick, what we've got now.
Yeah.
I mean, King Sick, I should have quit before I actually put my first order in. I knew then, you know, it took so long to get those agreements in place.
Yeah.
We worked on those for about a year, and then, you know, it's almost a little bit like, you know, the relationship at the start. Like I knew, I was like, fuck, why am I handing over this money?
So
this
the pattern is still there in a sense.
A lot of work, yeah. Well, the pattern is, I think, like, I now understand why, because it's the self-validation. So now I'm like, okay, well, I don't need...
Why am I doing this? Do I need to go through this process?
Do I need to go through this? So I think quitting early is maybe understanding why you're doing it and just fucking get on with it. Because base camp as well. Base camp was great first year, like second year, then it started to die on its ass after the bubble went. And I could have got out there a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And in both situations,
And when it was fucking steaming.
fucking steaming, yeah. We'd done 15 million in our first 2 years.
Wow.
So I could have sold that, you know, and got out there. And you know, the funny thing was, you were one of the people that was telling me to sell it and get out. Fucking and I never listened. And so the quitting just cost me fucking a shit ton of money, a lot of energy, a lot of emotion. The not quitting caused me all that. So
because you pour your heart and soul into it, you want it to work, you want to believe it's going to happen. But like you said, you know, quitting is underrated. And
Like I said, but
sorry, Millie. Sorry. But quitting is underrated. But you gotta understand, when your ego is attached to it, it goes from nuts and bolts to fucking emotional. And the minute it becomes emotional, emotions are distortions. No matter what anybody fucking tells you, if you're emotionally attached to something, you're fucked. Your numbers should tell you. You taught me that. Your numbers should tell you. Your numbers will tell you whether to fucking do it or not. You know, you come to me with a deal, we sit down and look at the deal, and you will not come to me with a deal unless it's got fucking 35% in it. You just won't. If it's got fucking 20, if it's got 34%, no, we're not going near it.
Yeah, I think at the start, I was definitely more emotional to those, like the properties or the investments we looked at. But now I'm at the point where I just don't give a fuck. Like I'm like, if it doesn't make money, and they
but
don't
isn't it funny, right? Isn't it funny how deals come to you with, you know, the you're always tempted, right? You're always tempted, and then it comes in just a different jacket. You know what I mean? It goes, okay, I didn't get him that time, right? I'll fuck off, I'll change jackets. Oh, look at this one. This is a really, no, fuck, you want it.
I think it's trying to distract you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's trying to pull you back in. And it's like, it's how
Yeah, because once you
evolved
get
are you?
clear, it's like you get the test
Yeah.
to go, are you actually clear? Because if you're not,
Yeah.
come down this pathway a little bit, you know? And then eventually you're like, no, I'm checking to see if this is just a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing.
And so you mean the test keeps showing up?
Yeah,
like
it keeps
just
showing up. Because the moment you
get
get clear,
Yeah.
life does challenge you.
Yeah.
Like it challenges you to go, oh, now that you've got that lesson, are you going to go back on your learning? Are you going to go back into that old pattern and the old cycle? But it's designed to keep pushing you forward, because if you can pass that test in that way, you do get more opportunities. Once you get clearer and clearer, more of those things come to you, because your reticular activating system is focusing in on, this is what I want. Do you know what I mean? And it's just honing what your clarity is.
I mean, even the funny thing in you saying that, right? You know, we hear from people all the time, oh, there's no fucking properties, there's no deals, there's no nothing out there, right? But the amount of property deals that we get across our desk are fucking, like, the minute you're honed in, they just find you. When everybody else is gone, they're not there, or nobody wants to move out because they've nowhere else to move into. You know, they're there, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think like it's, I feel like it's, you know, when you're maybe needy, you know, if you've got a neediness, then you don't, you know, they won't, you won't find them. It's like the abundance, lack and abundance.
Yeah.
Is that, I don't know.
Well, it's right. The clarity and the neediness is because you think it's going to give you more pleasure than pain, more happy than sad, more good than bad, more right than wrong. When you're clear, you know it's going to be pleasure and pain, but you're still clear. Do you know what I mean? It's got that, you have that certainty and you've got that empowerment, and that neediness is always like it's emotion. It's like I'm looking for more of one thing than the other thing. That's why I won't leave this relationship where I only want this sort of da-da-da-da. When you have the clarity, when you're poised in that, you understand that it brings pleasure and pain. Do you know what I mean? But it's just you have that clarity and that certainty of knowing what is aligned with you and what's not. Because when it's aligned with you, you're going to deal with the pain because it's aligned with you. Do you know what I mean? If you are trying to do something you're not aligned with, the pain feels too much to handle, because you just want to go, Barley's, give up, I can't deal with this. Do you know what I mean? When the pain is in alignment with your values, with who you are, you'll handle. It's like a kid at Christmas time. Do you know what I mean? Like they will go and be awake at 4 o'clock in the morning because they've got presents. You want to try and get them 4 o'clock awake in the morning for school. They're not going to want to do it because it's not aligned with them. So they don't want to handle the pain of what comes with something that somebody else is imposing on them.
Yeah.
So when you're clear and you're empowered instead of being needy, you'll handle the pleasure and the pain of it. To me, that's how I see it anyway. More, it's just you understand. Yeah, it's going to cause both sides, but this is my path.
Yeah, it's almost
my
like
truth.
it's a double P. Like one's pain and one's a problem. Like if it's aligned with you, it's just a problem.
Yeah.
Where if it's not, it's a pain.
Yeah.
You know, you feel it. You know, there's
Yeah.
suffering there. But
Yeah.
when it's aligned to you, it just becomes a problem, and you
You
deal with
gotta
problems every day.
Sort it out. Yeah, it's an opportunity to grow, move past, and move closer to your outcome. Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk about Brookie Wookie Wook.
Yeah, beautiful Brooke. So yeah, I met Brooke in Cohen Ray in K2, and at that time she had just quit her job on the mine. She works. She does a lot of mental health, but at that time she was doing stuff with like teenage girls, and Indy was going through a fair bit at that time, and so just with friends and socially, etc. And so I just I remember reaching out to her. Like she was from WA, and the WA K2 contingent was quite small, so you know we get put in this chat. So I knew of her anyway. So I reached out to her maybe like 6 months before this mastermind when I decided to leave Connie, and was like having a chat with her saying, hey, I'd love you to meet my daughter and have a chat with her and help her out because she's just struggling bits and pieces. And then what happened was I'd obviously gone to the mastermind and finally got up the courage to leave. And so I remember she texted me on like on the day after I got back from the seminar in Sydney. And she was like, hey, just reaching out, just seeing when you want to catch up with your daughter. And I was like, actually, you know what? I'm just going to have to put that on hold. I've got something that I need to take care of at home. And so that's as far as that conversation went until, you know, I'd separated, moved out, gone into Boyer. And then she just reached out again maybe a few weeks, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks later, and was like, hey, how you going, you know? Do you want me to catch up? And I explained the situation. He was like, you know, sorry to hear that. And then she knew at that point in time had base camp, which was the caravan store, and she had planned to run from Karratha to Perth. It was 1,800 Ks, and she was raising money for mental health. She was raising money for the Blue Tree Project and 20 Talk. And she just reached out and was like, hey, do you know of any sponsors that would sponsor us a caravan? And I said, oh, you know, what's it for? Give me the details. Anyway, I said, look, come and see me. We'll work something out. I'm keen to help you out. I just thought it was just a great cause. And, you know, I'm not going to be lying. I find her very attractive. And so there was an ulterior motive there to get her in. So I was like, okay, come and see me. We'll sort you out.
Get her into the caravan.
I didn't know how I was going to get the caravan, but I just wanted to come and see me. So, yeah, she come in and we ended up, sponsoring a caravan for that run. And so she went away and did that. And then I just carried on living my life. And she did that for 6 weeks and raised, I think it was about 75 grand. And when she come back, you were there as well. We went down to see her across the line. And yeah, after that, she was just like, I can't remember what happened. We're just like, do you want to catch up? You know, I think it was just to say thank you and just catch up and hang out or whatever. And then we just hit it off. Like, it was just similar sense of humor, you know, in a way it's like having, like, I just want to say this, you know, when you're in, there's relationships and someone goes, oh, I've married my best friend and, you know, oh, they're my best friend. I used to think, what a fucking load of shit. Like, that just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But now, like, I see that. Like, she is my best friend. I talk to her. We talk about everything and anything. And so, we just hit it off. We just had a lot in common. She's super ambitious. She's motivated. I just, you know.
Tell everybody what she's doing now.
So
that's like next level. It's not ambitious. It's some next level of ambitious, I reckon.
Yeah. So after she did the run from Karratha to Perth, which was 1,600 Ks, she was running 60 Ks a day. She decided that at that point, actually, before we had got into a relationship, so she was still single when she made this decision, she decided that she was going to run around Australia. And so not across Australia, which would be long enough, but she was going to run around Australia, which is 14,000 kilometres. And she was going to run 80 Ks a day, so pretty much 2 marathons a day for 180 days straight. And so I was like, at the time, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. No worries. You can't comprehend that distance. You know, I remember telling my mum and dad about it, and they were like, so how far is that? And I said, like, it's pretty much from London to the South Pole in a straight line. Like, that's how far she's running. It's just such a long way. And so, yeah, so it was just.
Look, it's a fucking long way, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that you have to comprehend is the 80 kilometers a day.
Yeah, every day.
For every day. For 180
80 days.
180 days. Like,
6 months.
it's just, I was watching this Netflix documentary, this guy running across Australia. And I mean, look, it was grueling. He was running across Australia, you know, and there was obviously a bit going on for him. But he was doing 40 kilometers a day. He was doing a marathon a day. And the thing that is fucking annoying about it, that I feel, is that there's so much fucking media on him, and he's a male, and now you have a female, which is running around Australia, doing twice that per day, you know, 4 or 5 times the fucking distance, and it gets coverage, but not the coverage it should be getting, especially in terms of the cause that it is, which is for mental health and the Blue Tree Project. I just feel like what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? Like, and what she's doing, and like, I can see that there's times she's definitely emotional, but like, you won't hear her pissing and moaning about it. You know, like, because you can't have that. That cannot come into your mind when you know that tomorrow you got to get up and do another 80 Ks, 2 marathons. Yeah. You know?
I think, she's just not, I don't know, like, I was literally having this conversation to her the other day, and we were talking about, you know, we're talking about how do we get more people involved in the mission, everything else. And I said, you know, because she's not really clickbait. You know, she's not shouting and screaming saying that, you know, this is too hard, or, you know, her toenails have fallen off, yes, but she's not making a big song and deal about it with infected feet. And so it was like, how do you do this and stay authentic to yourself? Do you know what I mean? Because it could be easy for her to just slap on a bikini and go running, and you know, do you know what I mean? And like,
or you to slap on a bikini and run next to it.
Actually, maybe that would get more views. But it does piss me off. It pisses me off a lot that she's like doing this mammoth task, and it's just so hard for her to get coverage. Yeah. And the men seem to be able to do it, and they just get sponsorships and everything thrown at them. So it's just maybe it's just a real insight as well into just how women's sport works in general. I just think it's just all totally, you know.
But she's a fucking machine, dude. Like, like when she started to say it to me, I remember sitting there and I was kind of glitching out. I'm like, no, that's not actually possible. What are you talking about? And then she goes, no. And I remember I said to her, so you gonna have a break? And she goes, yeah, I'll probably I'll have 1 day a week where I'll have a break, but I'll still run a marathon.
Oh, 20 Ks, I think, on her break days, doesn't she?
Oh, it goes, and it's normally every 2 weeks. So she'll run anywhere from, like, the minimum's about 20, but she'll run anywhere up to like 60, 70 Ks as well. So that to her is a rest day. But I think it's just honestly, you know, her body is just so honed in now, like physically.
Yeah, you can tell even after the first couple of weeks of her running how she was like you could just see her body had shifted as well to be able to deal with what she was putting it through. Yeah. No, just physically, I mean.
Yeah. I think it's honestly the biggest thing is just the mind. It's just the resilience to put your body through that. For you to get over your mind telling you constantly, you don't need to do this. No, you can just stop. You can stop.
Fucking.
Like that battle every single day for 6 months straight. Yeah.
And can I play devil's advocate for a second? Both of you are sitting there going, the women, it doesn't get as much coverage and stuff like that. But you guys thinking that brings that to reality. And I feel like you have to look beyond that. I'm not saying that there may not be some truth in that. Yeah. I'm like, it's about asking the question, how can I? How can I be as authentic as possible and reach out to the right people who have got that say, who have got that reach, who have got that, and not think about it just as the women don't get the coverage. Because if you keep thinking the women don't get the coverage, she's going to finish this run and she's not going to get that coverage because everybody behind her is assuming that. And whatever mindset you've got going on, because she's got, like, in order for her to do this, her mind has got to be as focused as it possibly can be to actually doing the physical stuff. She's emotional because she's dealing with all the emotions that come through when you're dealing with all the physical stuff. That's a natural part. But having people behind her going, oh, the women don't get as much coverage is kind of putting that on her, and she probably doesn't need that at the moment.
Yeah.
There may need to be another way of thinking about it. You know what I mean? I don't know that it's conducive to her and achieving the goal if we're sitting here thinking, just because she's a woman, she's not getting the cup. I'm not saying there's no truth in that. Don't get me wrong, because I think there's definitely people who got that covered. But even the guy who ran across, I can't remember his name, but I didn't hear about it till the end.
Yeah.
And so once she's moving more and more towards the end, she's probably going to get more and more coverage.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe there's some way that she can be. She's doing a couple of things I've seen on her socials that's helping people to understand exactly what she's doing, like the AFL thing, and she's trying to compare what she's doing to what an AFL, I think that things like that help people to understand, but some ways that we can help her to get coverage in the right spots that help people to understand what she's actually doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you're 100% right. I think like that doesn't help the conversation as well. So I'm glad you pulled that up. And comparison is always going to rob you of, happiness, I guess, or like the fulfillment of success. And so, and the truth is, she is getting a lot of coverage as well. It's like she is getting coverage. I think it's just maybe we're not seeing the financials results yet.
And that's another thing as well. It's like, how do we turn that now into a financial reward for the cause? Because that for Brooke, if she can get that money in the bank, that's what she's wanting, right? That's what she's looking for, because then that means the conversation is continuing. And even little things like us having the conversation, that's what she's looking for. Having a conversation about mental health, about XYZ. So I don't know, I feel like I can talk to you about it off air, about some of the stuff that I feel like she may need to maximise a little bit. So, and you guys need to feel like, hey, you can achieve anything. Don't worry about what the media is doing or what everyone else is doing. This is, you've got this kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I also feel like maybe, like the goal is obviously to raise money for the Blue Tree Project. That's who she's raising money for. But I definitely know the goal has changed from her. She started off kind of like, is this being a bit of a me mission, and now it's a we mission, and so it's now she's like diverting as well. So it's more about having really meaningful conversations for her and impacting people along the way. Like she poured into this town. She was telling me like these stories happen every day about these conversations she's having. But she poured in and she was having. They stopped and they stayed on this farmer's land, and she had this conversation with this 12-year-old girl who's I think she was anorexic or had anorexia or I think it was something like that. And it's just because it is hard. It's also hard on our relationship, her being away. And I just remember saying to her, like if you can impact that 12-year-old and set her on a different path or directory, then it doesn't matter about the money, because you can't put a value on someone's life. It's really about changing those individual lives and having those conversations along the way.
Yeah.
And so, and that's definitely what she's doing. She's out there doing that now. And so,
Good on her though. Far out.
Woo.
What a fucking feat.
Yeah,
It's insane.
absolutely. Yeah,
You guys, you going to join her? Do like 20Ks?
Yeah, like when I do go out there, I do run maybe like 5Ks every now and again, not too often, but I do sometimes. But generally I'm like support crew, and that just involves like hanging by the side of the road and just making sure she's eating and drinking and everything else. So
Come on, Brooke.
Yeah.
You got this.
I'm thinking about doing the 12K, the HBF, like the 12K, whatever that's called. So yeah.
That's in how long?
I think that's 25th of May.
Okay, and how many times do you run?
I've run a couple. I can
train for that?
I could do 5-7K, I reckon. Yeah, now. So
And
it's
when
just
you
two of
think
those.
about it, you think about how long people train to do like the HBF run or the whatever, and she's doing like 5 times that every single day or more. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
For
insane.
180 days.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the
insane.
other night she done an all-nighter because she was trying to hit a certain
Financial goal.
financial target.
Did she get it?
She ran 80Ks that day, and then she decided that she would run through the night until 11 o'clock in the morning the following day to try and get to 100K. She didn't get there. I think she got to about 86 or something. And the amazing thing is not only was that a nuts challenge for her, like she just didn't need to do that, but there was like 6 other people that got on board and run through the night
I
with
love
her
that.
as well.
I love that
So
so
good.
much.
Do you know what I mean? Like that, and that to me is like she is making.
That's right.
As long as I get her back in one piece, she's fit and healthy. She comes back safe, and to me, like the money to the Blue Tree Project is just a bonus.
Yeah.
Like it's all the conversations she's having along the way.
Which is kind of what that's kind of what she wanted, right?
Yeah. And so
But the
she's
sponsorship tends to come in the last quarter.
That's what I'm saying.
Doesn't it?
Towards the end.
That's what the Blue
yeah.
Tree Project have said. Generally, you raise the most money when people can see the event finishing.
Yeah.
Like that you're at the end.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
But she is a remarkable,
Incredible.
amazing, incredible young woman. That's we talk like I just love her so much. We talk every day. We FaceTime every day. We message every day, and we message maybe like 15, 20 times a day. It's just, and it's just, I'm just, very grateful that she come into my life.
Awesome.
Good job.
We've been chatting for a very long time. How do we finish this off? What do you reckon is the biggest lesson you've learned in everything overall? If you were to look back and say now, what's the biggest lesson I've learned? What do you reckon it would be?
Ooh. I think the biggest lesson is for me, like I think what would have saved me a lot of pain is really to work out who you are first, and learn to love yourself first. Learn that, and then you won't seek like external validation. And then because that just sets you on on the path to like so many, I don't know, wrong decisions. Like if you can understand you, like I mean I'm like 46. I feel like fuck, I've taken a long point to get to this, like a long time to get to this point. And then I realized some people will never get to the point that I'm at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people get there a lot earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think my biggest lesson is really like jump into a bit of personal development, find out who you really are, find out what you want, like work out what you want.
Yeah.
Don't get like washed around like a boat in the ocean,
Yeah.
like work
I
out
love
what that is and then go for it,
I love that. I love that. Really good.
Thanks for coming in, buddy.
Thanks.
No
And we
worries.
will we'll put some sort of a link to donate for Brooke's cause as
Yeah.
well.
Just do you want to just say what it is, Matt?
You can find her at Brooke McIntosh. So Brooke is BROOKEMCINTOSH.com.au. If you jump on there, that's her website. But there'll be a link on there to the Raisley website. And so, just jump on. If you can spare a few dollars, it all goes to the Blue Tree Project. All the profits go to the Blue Tree Project. And so, it's
Perfect.
get on and support her.
Thanks for joining us, Maddie. It was
Thanks,
great
buddy.
chatting to you.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.